Ms. McCollum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Salazar, as has been pointed out by yourself and many people, the catastrophe in the Gulf has been a tragedy for the workers who lost their lives, for the fishermen and others whose livelihoods are now ruined, for the unknown environmental impacts on public health and wildlife, for which we simply have no idea what the future looks like. BP was drilling in waters, has been pointed out time and time again, owned by the American people. This oil spill now threatens many of our national treasures, from the delicate coral reefs in Florida, Keys, to the Louisiana wetlands that harbor life for thousands of wildlife species. Now, Secretary Salazar, in light of the disasters in the Gulf of Mexico and the corrupt state of MS, I have grave concerns about allowing drilling in the Arctic. Trusting the work of MSS and the assurances of Shell Oil under the current regulatory form in which we're operating under just is unacceptable. So I'm asking you, and I know it's been pointed out that the President is going to be making an announcement shortly, I'm asking you to continue to use your powers to stop all the drilling in Beaufort and to check CCs until we really have answers, till we really have ideas of what we are doing. This needs to stop, and stop now. So I welcome an announcement by the President because I have seen firsthand how fragile this area is in the Arctic, and I believe that we need to be working together to do everything we can do to make sure that you have all the tools that you need to put regulations in place, regulations that we know will work before any further drilling in this area commences. Now, you have two major cleanups going on right now. The one in the Gulf, the oil spill that you've been answering questions on, and then you've also been answering questions on the regulatory cleanup mess, the deep corruption, the mismanagement that has plagued this agency when you inherited it. Now, you've been talking about some of your plans to clean up the agency, and I just want to reiterate how important this is. And according to a story in the Washington Post, Tuesday, May 25th, 2010, MNS actions are shaped by a 2005 regulation it adopted that assumes oil and gas companies can best evaluate the environmental effects of their operations. So once again, I'm asking for the drilling to stop until we put effective, new, stringent, accountable regulations in place. The Washington Post goes on to say the rule governing which information MSS should receive and review before signing off on the drilling plan states, quote, the leaser or the operator is in the best position to determine the environmental effects in its proposed activity based on whether or not the operation is routine or non-routine. I think we have the science in our toolbox to make that decision, so I look forward to you doing it. So my questions are simple. And I think I've heard you clearly say that you will be coming to Congress to request legislation authorizing this new regulatory framework. I think I've heard you clearly say that. What requests can this subcommittee expect for the 2011 appropriations? What are you going to need to be able to carry out this fundamental restructuring into the three separate agencies and finally eliminate once for all the corruption, the negligence, and the conflicts of interest that have cost our country and our taxpayers so dearly? What can we do to help you? When can we expect that report from you, sir?
Thanks, Ms. McCollum. And this is Ms. McCollum's first foray into the Interior Appropriations Subcommittee, and we welcome you, Ms. McCollum. Thank you. It's clear she's not going to be, as they say, a shrinking violet, and we welcome that. Mr. Secretary, and after your response, it will conclude the hearing. Yeah. Please, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Congresswoman McCollum. First, let me say that what we have asked is the $29 million request, which Deputy Secretary David Hayes outlined. That will be used for the variety of things, including additional inspectors and the investigations that are underway. As we move forward in this time frame where we are standing up the new reconstructed organization for ocean energy management and the inspection bureaus, we will work closely with you to identify the resources that are needed to make sure that that agency will have the robustness to accomplish the purposes that you outlined. And finally, with respect to the comment that you make about the Arctic, let me just say this. We know the sensitivities of the Arctic. We made very significant changes with respect to the proposed leasing programs and oil and gas development in the Arctic. The 5 exploratory wells that were to be drilled this summer, those predated what we were doing here. But what will happen, I expect you'll see the President's statement, is that there's a sense here we need to learn the lessons from the Gulf, and pushing a pause button is an important thing to do. And I think in particular in the Arctic, because of the fact that the oil spill response that you have underway in the Gulf Coast today is the largest ever in the history of the world. You know, I think when other oil spills have occurred, including Ixtoc in Mexico, or dozens of others, many of which have been as large or larger, much larger than this one, they've gone unnoticed to the rest of the world. And so I think one of the things that you raise, and I think which Deputy Secretary David Hayes addressed a few minutes ago, is we really also need to look at this in the context of the oceans of the world. Because what happens with respect to the Arctic in Alaska is just a very tiny piece of the Arctic Circle, where there are sovereign interests to have, independent of the United States, obviously because of their sovereignty, want to move forward with very aggressive programs in the Arctic. And it includes Russia, it includes Canada, it includes Norway, it includes other countries. And so there is I have had this sense, in fact, that's why Secretary Clinton and I attended a meeting in Canada about a month and a half ago about the need to really take a look at this issue even beyond the borders of the United States and the Arctic, because we can take care, for example, of the Beaufort issues in the United States, but Canada's right there too, okay? We can do it with respect to the Chukchi, but Russia is right there too. So one of the lessons I hope comes out of this is that we can also deal more with these issues on a global nature. Thank you very much.
Very good. Very well done, Mr. Secretary, as we would have expected. Thank you as well, Mr. Hayes. You did a terrific job as well. This will conclude this part of the panel, and so you're free to go and to go back to advising the President on